Since I started teaching how to insert hypothesis equations on the arrow of your conceptual framework, people have been asking me to explain the difference between the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So let's quickly go to the board. We are coming to look at null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So the question is, what is hypothesis? I want to give the basic understanding, meaning the layman understanding of hypothesis. Then we're going through the scientific or research understanding of hypothesis. So when you say hypothesis, it's an unproven statement that can be tested. It's a prediction about the findings of a research. You haven't conducted the research, but have gathered knowledge, information, facts about what we want to do. So it has given you a fair idea of what you can get at the end of the study or the research. So based upon these ideas that you have gathered, you predict the result or the findings. So the statement that you make to predict the result or the findings is what we call the hypothesis. So in other words, it is a claim based on facts or some reasonable assumptions that it explains why or how something functions, but it hasn't yet undergone specific testing. So you haven't tested it, but you assume that it will get to this point, or you assume that it will give you this result. So for example, compensation influences employee retention. That's a prediction. You haven't gathered any data about it. So you are just predicting that at the end of the study, compensation will influence employee retention. The another one is sex has no influence on employee retention. You are just predicting. You don't have any data to support it. You are now going to collect the data, but you are predicting that at the end of the day, sex will not have any influence on employee retention. And you are trying to say that even if you do sex, still you can perform as a worker. Not that when you do sex in the morning, you go to work, you can't perform. That's maybe the data that you want to get, meaning the research that you want to do. So you have realized that both statements predict something on something. That's one variable on another. So this is the what we call the compensation. This compensation is the independent variable. The employee retention is the dependent variable. Going forward, continue, follow, like, and share. But we are going to explore the variables also. Sex is the independent variable, and the employee retention is a dependent variable. So we are saying that they are predicting this employee's performance. Have you seen, based upon the reasonable assumption, based upon the reasonable information that you have. So this is the general view or layman point of view of a hypothesis. Now let's go to the scientific point of view or research point of view. To the research point of view, when we say hypothesis, it's a statement about the expected outcome of a study. So when I conduct a study about, let's say, the influence of teaching and learning materials on student performance. So I want to conduct a study about the influence of teaching and learning materials on the student performance. That's the study that I want to conduct. Have you seen it? So you predict something. At the end of the day, what are you expecting? You're expecting to have something influencing something or something having an effect on something. So that's what we call. So the study that I want to conduct, the prediction that you do about the study is what we call the hypothesis. And every hypothesis, talking about the scientific research hypothesis, you have these three things: specificity, you should have specificity, you should have clarity, and you have testability. Research, if you want to conduct proper research, your hypothesis should have these three items or characteristics: specificity, clarity, testability. These three should be found in your hypothesis. When you talk about the specificity, you should be specific. You should know what you are after. You can't conduct a research where you don't know what you are after. No. You need to know what you're after. It is about what? Is it about teaching and learning materials? Let everybody be known. Be specific. Not that you think it's about teaching and learning material. You also think about this. You think it's about the student behavior. No. Be specific. When you talk about the clarity, make the statement clear. Make it clear. Simple. Teaching influence of teaching and learning materials on student performance. So it's clear. Don't bring any jargons. And the third one, testability. It should be something can be tested. That can be tested. Don't forget that hypothesis is about predicting findings. Have you seen? So it should be something that can be tested. So the influence of teaching and learning materials on student performance. Yes, so you can test it. When you collect data with your proper instrument, you can test it. So your hypothesis should be testable. That's what we are talking about. Don't forget that. We have two types of hypothesis. That's the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Let's quickly go through the null hypothesis. When we say null hypothesis, is the claim that there's no effect. It's the claim that there's no effect, or there's no influence, or there's no relationship. That's the null. Some call it zero. And null meaning that nil or zero. Meaning there's no effect, there's no relationship. And we are saying that if you say sex has no influence on an employee performance, if you say sex has no influence on employee performance, you should expect at the end of the day that when you collect data and you run the test, you need to get the p-value, which is probability value, should be less than 0.05. Your probability value, when you run the test, you go there, you do everything about research. Your p-value, which is probability, those that they don't know what p stands for, p means probability. The probability value should be less than 0.05. I've written this because there's a school of thought that probability is a range. The p-value is a range. Some of the studies or some of the researchers, some believe in the school of thought that probability between -1 and +1. That's why I've written this. Some believe in this, that it should be exactly 0.05. Some also says that it should be a range that between -1 and negative, and it should be between -1 and +1. That's why I've written this. So whatever you get, so it should be a range, but whatever it is, you need to get this at least 0.05. Anything more than this, no, you don't have strong influence or effect. So that's why you're saying that the null hypothesis has no effect. When we say null hypothesis, means that there's no effect or difference or relationship. So the question, let's say your research question is, does sex influence employee performance? So this is your research question. Does sex influence employee performance? This is your research question. Does sex influence employee performance? So the null hypothesis will say that sex has no effect on employee performance. That's the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis, see like how you have written the null hypothesis. I think I've taught you. I have already explained how to insert this equation. So let's quickly go through the alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis answers your research question. and it claims that there's an effect or there's an influence or there's a relationship. That's alternative hypothesis. Then now he's saying that there's no relationship, there's no effect, there's no influence, or there's no relationship. But the alternative is saying that there's an effect, there's a relationship, there's an influence. That's the alternative hypothesis. So now the research question was, does sex influence, as we did at the non-hypothesis side, does sex influence employee performance? That's the research question. How isn't it? And the hypothesis is sex significantly influence performance, employee performance. So the alternative, the null hypothesis was that sex does not influence employee performance, or sex has no influence on employee performance. But the alternative hypothesis is saying that sex significantly influence employee performance. So the only difference is there's no not. So the alternative state it as the question is. Let's take note of this. Alternative hypothesis is a complement to null hypothesis. They don't compete. Let's get it clear. Alternative hypothesis is a complement to null hypothesis. They don't compete. They help each other, they cooperate for you to get the good results. And again, null and alternative hypothesis are exhaustive. It means that together they cover every possible outcome. So when you put the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis together, then you can get a complete possible outcome. We are using possible because research is about probability. That's why we say p-value or significant value. Research is about probability. So together they give you the needed outcome or the result. Again, they are also mutually exclusive. It means that one can happen at a time. The two cannot happen at a time. You can't have one research that it says that sex significantly influences employee retention, and at the same time sex does not. It doesn't work in that way. There's no research like that. There's no study like that. That you can have sex significantly influence employee performance, and at the same time sex does not influence. No, it's not like that. So we are saying that they are mutually exclusive. One happen at a time. It means that it is only one that can be true. It is only one that can be true. The two cannot be true at the same time. Let's get it. The two cannot be true at the same time. It is only one that can be true at a time. So this is how it is. How you can write null hypothesis. Have you seen it? So that's it. Have you seen? I've already told you. I've already taught how to do this, how to insert this. Check out the alternative. It is subscript 1 or subscript A. Some screws recognize subscript 1. Others also recognize subscript A. So that's it.